I think we all have that one thing, that one franchise that just tragically disappears as the years go by. If I had to sit back and pick one, really pick one, it'd have to be Tenchu. If there's one series that makes me scream, I should have been the one to fill your dark soul with light, it's that franchise. And let me tell you why. Tenchu was a pioneer in the stealth gaming genre, being one of the first 3D games to ever pull off the concept, alongside its contemporaries Metal Gear Solid 1 and Thief. The first game came out on the legendary PSX back in '98 and started off the franchise with a bang. Man, if you've been watching me for a while, you know how much of a simp I am for this series in Metal Gear. The music is practically all I use for my videos. I wish I could go in depth for y'all on these games, but a short synopsis will have to do for now. I think a lot of people nowadays don't understand how big of a deal this game was, and by extension the franchise. It did stealth before anyone else did, with a concept no one ever did before, and no one really has since. For those who don't know, Tenchu was about two ninjas, Rikimaru and Ayame, servants of one Lord Goda, and on his behalf, you go out into feudal Japan and do ninja shit, assassinating corrupt merchants, saving innocent villagers from bandits and thieves, fighting literal demons, regular ninja shit. The cool part was these games were never really long. They always followed this 10 level format, but Tenchu was the definition of quality over quantity. There were 10 levels alright, but there were 10 damn good levels. Of course, not to mention the later games would improve on this system, with Tenchu 2 being the absolute peak in my opinion. See, what Tenchu 2 did was having this sort of Yakuza 0 type overlapping story, with our boy and girl Rikimaru and Ayame having two different stories that connected to the same overall main plot, as opposed to Tenchu 1, which had the characters go through the same exact story beat for beat. The music, as I mentioned earlier, has been phenomenal in this series. Seriously, I don't know what sort of trance they entered when composing the music for these games, but even if you never plan on playing these games at all, ever in your life, I highly recommend giving the songs a listen. The songs are genuinely just good art. They have a perfect atmosphere, a mix of loneliness, cold, yet spooky vibes. It also gives you a feeling that although you're sitting on the rooftops watching your enemies, they might be watching you too. The series started in '98 and saw various sequels over the early 2000s, with the last being Tenchu Shadow Assassins in 2009, who many like me just refer to as Tenchu 4 for convenience sake. So let's dissect where the bullshit creeped in and why. Analysis time! The first four games in the franchise, Tenchu 1, 2, 3, and Fatal Shadows, are considered goated by essentially the entire fandom. Then we start seeing the bullshit, with two back-to-back handheld Tenchu games. Handheld games that no one asked for, mind you. I'm skimming over how ass these two entries are, but trust me, I will never understand gaming companies knowing what makes their product good and then going the complete opposite direction. Like, there's one thing to experiment and then there's actively trying to sabotage your game. After the handhelds, we got Tenchu Z. This one caused quite a split in the community. On one hand, you have Camp A that argues the game was pretty good, citing the smooth-flowing, engaging gameplay as their main argument. Meanwhile, Camp B argues the game was pretty ass, and pretty much has nothing to do with Tenchu, except having an older Rikimaru give you missions. Then, we had Tenchu Shadow Assault, which was I mean, really guys, come on, what the fuck is this? How do you go from this to this? Finally, with the last entry being Tenchu 4, which again, was a disaster. I think what went wrong with Tenchu was greed and a severe case of IDS, Idiot Dev Syndrome. When you think about it, all the shit games came after the first 4 good ones. 4 whole complete games with their own unique stories, level design, themes, and music. Realistically, what story are you going to tell after the first 4 games? And then, of course, corporate greed got activated like a fucking trap card, and they got the worst guys to do the job and produce absolute shit stinkers that just put stains on the series' legacy. After learning all of this history, I'm still a believer in the fact that this series can make a comeback, bigger and badder for sure. FromSoft is also in a drought when it comes to creativity. Don't get me wrong, I love Soulsborne as much as the next guy, but the birth of Dark Souls was a double-edged sword in a way. It gave birth to a phenomenal franchise, yet it also sealed the fate of FromSoft the publisher for the next foreseeable decade. Now, after 15 damn years of only publishing Soulsborne shit, and after getting a new Armor Core, I think striking while the iron's hot would be very wise for FromSoft. I mean, realistically, how much money would creating a Tenchu 1 remake cost for such a big company like FromSoft? Not to mention the fact that they tried doing something Tenchu related a few years back, and then we got Sekiro. Having FromSoft expand and get their hands into stealth would do wonders for them, especially with the fact that we're seeing a revival of the stealth genre. The gaming devs, the execs, whatever you want to call them, they're seeing that people want stealth, especially with MGS3 remake set to come out sometime this year.
Kept you waiting, huh?